Hi, it's Nick Sadler from the Label Machine here, and in today's podcast we have Brian Zisook, also known as Z, who is the EVP of Global Operations and Head of Artist and Label Services at Audiomack. We got the lowdown on the platform that is the #1 streaming platform in 17 countries, how they are supporting new and emerging artists, how to spend $3,000 on a marketing campaign for an emerging artist, and the #1 thing that artists should do if they want to grow their fan base, as well as many other great nuggets of information. Z really knows his stuff, and this was a truly insightful episode.
You're listening to the Label Machine series, a podcast to inspire and help indie record labels and artists to build income streams for their music. I'm Nick Sadler, a music entrepreneur that has helped start and run multiple indie record labels. In this series, I'll be speaking with music industry leaders about their experience and the lessons they learn on how they both market and grow their music income.
Welcome to the Label Machine series, where we discuss with our guests how artists and record labels monetize their music. Today we have Brian Zisook, aka Z, who is EVP Global Operations Head for Artists and Label Services at Audiomack, which is a leading music streaming platform that champions independent artists and innovative monetization strategies. He has over a decade of experience in the music industry and has been instrumental in fostering growth and creating opportunities for artists worldwide. Before joining Audiomack, he co-founded the influential hip-hop website DJ Booth, where he played a crucial role in curating content and supporting emerging talent. Known for his deep industry insights and unwavering dedication to artist development, I look forward to discussing the shape of the future music of distribution and monetization. Z, how are you today?
That was a fantastic introduction. I'm going to bring you around everywhere, Nick, and you can be my front man.
Thank you. Do you know what? I do spend about 15 minutes crafting an intro for everybody to give everyone a full, so everyone gets the full picture, of what's going on. So I guess the very first question I like to ask everybody is, how did you get started in the industry up to where you are today on this call with me?
Well, the long story is I played sports in high school, and then midway through, I tore up my knee pretty badly, and that was the end of my sports career. And as a result of that, I got involved in public speaking, television, and debate. That led me to pursue a degree in mass communications and radio broadcasting. And when I was in school, I hosted a radio program every Saturday night for 4 years while attending Illinois State University. I really wanted to be an on-air DJ, and I actually briefly worked in radio after graduation. But fortunately, that did not work out. And I was able to focus my full-time attention on DJ Booth, which you alluded to in your open. It was a hobby, right? The idea of it being a full-time job and profit-making business was not initially in the cards. And then slowly over time, we just kept on growing the service. And it was overnight then my full-time gig, which led to some years later, the start of Audiomack. And I feel very fortunate. I don't really believe I've worked a day over the last decade plus. It's a good blessing.
Oh, amazing. So yeah, I didn't realize that it was you transitioned from Booth to Audiomack. Can you give us just to provide an overview of Audiomack and its mission in the music industry?
Absolutely. So let's rewind. So in the late, DJ Booth was hosting artist mixtapes. At the time, in particular, hip hop artists were using free file sharing services to disseminate their music online. And those platforms were never built with the intention of aiding artists for release. They were a poor experience for the artist, couldn't track any data. The link would eventually die. It was a horrific experience for the user. You had to navigate through a landmine of pop-up ads and malware, and then hope that when you downloaded the file, it was actually what you were looking for. Not that different from the experience using like a Napster or a Kazaa. And so DJ Booth started hosting mixtapes and albums for artists, providing a dedicated link, a stream, and then we would write about the album. So that way the artists would get press clipping and have the ability to have a dedicated page all in one. But we realized that that was not our core competency. When popular mixtapes and albums were released, we would eventually have to worry about our servers going down because we couldn't handle all of the traffic to DJ Booth. So we recognized that there was a problem in the marketplace, and Audiomack was that solution. So when we launched Audiomack in 2012, the idea was very simple. Free, unlimited uploads, not charging artists for anything. So at no point during the onboarding flow would you be met with a screen that asked you to enter in your credit card information or subscribe to a monthly or annual plan. And the idea was, if we provide these free creator tools and artists use the service and find success, they will champion us. And that is the best marketing that you could ever buy.
So, and I've been following Audiomack for a few years now, because it really is probably, I would say the competition, if you have competition in the music industry, would be SoundCloud. Most people have heard of SoundCloud. What would you say, and you may have alluded to on the pricing thing, but what would you say sets Audiomack apart from SoundCloud? Like, what do you guys do differently?
A lot. So as I mentioned before, if you want the full Audiomack experience, it's yours, and there are no hurdles that you have to clear in order to enjoy everything that we have to offer. So that in a robust creator dashboard, access to all of your analytics, the ability to send connect messages to all of your followers, the ability to download promotional assets that celebrate your success on the service, unlimited uploads, access to our team and customer service. We don't charge for any of this. SoundCloud does not offer that same suite of tools. And what they do offer, you can only enjoy if you subscribe to their premium tier. And so it's, as a emerging or developmental artist, you have a limited amount of capital to invest into your career. That's eating away at those funds. We don't believe in charging artists for anything. We want them to enjoy the full suite of tools we have to offer so that they can find success on the service. The other element is the curation. I think, broadly speaking, across the entire industry, we've seen this shift to algatorial and algorithmic driven playlisting and editorial. And it sort of stripped away the human experience. And what we do, I think, not just better than SoundCloud, but better than most DSPs, some of whom have billions in funding, is we deliver a more human curated experience. And you don't know what you're missing if you're in this feedback loop where AI just keeps giving to you what you've already heard. You don't know what you might want to listen to if you've never pressed play on it in the first place.
Yeah, no, I totally hear that. I mean, there's so many places I want to go with this. So Audiomack, that's one of the reasons why I suggest it to, artists and labels I work with is, if they want something beyond that SoundCloud can't give them around the, they're like, well, I don't want to have to pay them $79 a month or whatever it is.
Right.
The other is, and this is a bit of a technical, and don't know, how deep we can go into this as well, but if someone's uploading a bootleg of a song and it's getting, I know SoundCloud tends to be a little bit more aggressive on user-generated content, and if it's using something from Universal, it'll get taken down, all this kind of stuff. Audiomack has that. If you want to just embed something on your website or send to somebody there, it doesn't get, it's not as aggressive. So a couple of things is like, is that just going to be the case moving forward? Like, do you work with the major labels? Like, how does that side of it work? And or is it just people are lucky if they go on Audiomack and they don't get picked up?
So we do work with all the labels. We have over 400 licensing agreements, and that includes Universal, Sony, and Warner. We use a third-party audio fingerprinting tool called ACR Cloud. And the goal there is to suss out user-generated uploads that match the original file format. Now, there obviously has been a huge rise in the creation of derivative content, as you alluded to, remixed, modded versions of original works. The software itself has gotten quite smart, able to suss out sort of those bootleg uploads. Some of them, though, do make it through if they're significantly altered from the original version of the recording. The labels, while they tend to apply a heavy hand to modified versions of the Taylor Swifts and Drakes of the world, understand the inherent value in user-generated content for developing artists, as that is free marketing for artists that they're attempting to break. We saw the writing on the wall a few years ago, and we actually attempted to solve for this. We created a feature that is available in the app called Audiomack. If you haven't had the chance to play around with it, Nick, I would strongly suggest that you do. We actually offer the ability to use custom presets as the user to play back songs available on the service, changing the pitch and the reverb. And it's quite a fun tool. You can look at it as like a modern day equalizer. And the value here is that it actually discourages users from independently modifying songs and then attempting to upload those versions, because what it's doing is it's playing the original version. So any modified version, it's paid then out to the artist or the original rights holder. And so there's less UGC being uploaded and more money being made for the original rights holder.
That's really amazing. Are you guys looking to integrate it further, in which you have an ability where, because, that's cool, you can speed up and slow down, have reverb, but if I want to do like a house bootleg, I'm probably going to need a little bit more than that to, put my stamp on it. Are you going to look at maybe having it where it comes up, so at least doesn't matter what you do with it, those royalties are going back to the original artist?
It's tricky because we don't let people save their modified version. You can only save the presets and then share the presets with someone. And that is, we'll say that's where the industry is at with this sort of functionality and tool right now. It could change in the future. I think, as has historically been the case amongst especially the major labels, whenever there's technological innovation, instead of embracing that innovation, there tends to be someone who's like, no, stop it. And I think at this point, the writing is on the wall. You see artists releasing bundle packs with like 8 different versions of the same song, trying to get out ahead of the inevitable. And so this solves for that. That's a lot of extra work when you can leave it up to the user to determine how they want to play back.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. So am I right in saying that the Afrobeat community is really popular on Audiomack?
Mm-hmm. You are right. 100% right. Couldn't be more right.
Are you, is that are there any other kind of popular genres on there? And I guess, because I know Afrobeat is a genre that's growing. We've got a couple of members at the Label Machine who are running Afrobeat labels as well. And it's growing incredibly for them. I mean, if you are listening into that music, is this another reason why it would be good to be on the platform, because there's so many listeners and consumers that are liking that kind of music as well?
So outside the United States, our 2 biggest markets in the world are Nigeria and Ghana. We are the #1 music streaming service on Android and iOS in both.
Wow.
We are actually #1 in 17 countries in Africa, again, across both iOS and Android. A typical question I get is, did you target Africa? And we did not. Africa picked us. And there's a few reasons for that. First of all, we created an app that really caters to the experience on the ground, right? You have all of these socioeconomic and technological hurdles that get in the way of being able to listen to music. So for instance, to get started on a full catalog streaming service, you need access to credit or debit. You need disposable income to be able to pay for it. You cannot rely on a hard cap data plan. You have to concern yourself with access to Wi-Fi. And so we created this premium experience where you are not met with the credit card screen. And so you can enjoy music through the freemium model. Obviously, we hope that if you stick with us, that you upgrade, but you don't have to. You're paying through listening to and watching advertising in the app. And so the product itself caters to the needs of the market. And that's similarly why we've seen so much success in the Caribbean. We're the number one streaming service in Jamaica, same issues at hand, right? But beyond that, once we saw traction in these markets, we set up shop in these markets. We opened up a satellite office in Lagos. We hired on the ground. We have a 6-person team that works out of that office in Lagos. And then we started heavily curating Afrobeat and Afropop and Amapiano and all the various sounds, styles from across the continent. And so that way, the user had a more personalized experience. They felt like they were hearing music from their backyard, as opposed to this Western company trying to do this from across the pond.
Well, congratulations, number one in 60 countries is amazing. Like, yeah, that's incredible. And yeah, it was something I was going to ask you. I think being there in their backyard and curating for them is huge. And as Afro, and I guess as well for you guys, as Afrobeat grows in around the world and in America and Western culture, well, then you are really going to be the place to go to experience that to some degree. Are you sort of starting to see that as well?
And that's already happened, right? So it's not just contained within the borders of the continent, but across the diaspora. And so a lot of our growth in the UK, France, Germany, you're talking about first generation Nigerians and Ghanaians who know of Audiomack as the platform for artist discovery and curation when it comes to Afrobeat, Afropop, and then R&B and hip hop that is being made by Africans. There's an assumption from the Western world that it's coming out of Africa, special or unique to that subset of genres, but there's incredibly talented singers and rappers all across the continent who are looking to make music with their own unique flair and style. We've seen it here in the United States too. Houston is one of our top markets in the US, and it also happens to be the number one city across the US for Nigerian Americans. So that's already happening, and it'll hopefully only continue.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. I didn't know. I wasn't prompting you for all those. I had no idea you were number one in those countries. I was just, really interested in the Afrobeat side of things. So yeah, that's incredible. So I'm an artist to go on the platform like, hey, great. I'm uploading my catalog. I'm growing some fans, maybe I've got some followers on there. My next thing is, how do I monetize? What are the monetization options open for artists and labels on Audiomack?
Great question. So there's two paths. So if you deliver your music to Audiomack through one of more than 400 licensed content partners, just like any other DSP, that partner would be responsible for royalty collection and distribution. But Audiomack serves as the first stop for many artists at the very earliest stage in their career, meaning they are pre-distro, pre-label, potentially a hobbyist or a bedroom artist figuring out how serious they want to pursue music, or possibly in a market somewhere globally where there is no knowledge base or infrastructure. So the idea of even working with the distributor is foreign to them. And so what we offer is the ability to create an account. You have to meet some minimum thresholds, meaning at least 2 uploads that are original works, a profile photo, bio, social media. So you've flushed out your profile. You then have to apply for authentication, which effectively means like you are who you say that you are. And then once you have applied for and are authenticated, you can then apply for AMP, which is the Audiomack monetization program. And that allows you to generate royalties directly from Audiomack without having to work through a label or a distributor. And what we've seen is for a lot of artists, this suits their needs at the very beginning of their career. Now, many reach the point where they're only uploading to Audiomack or YouTube and SoundCloud, and they want their music available globally across all services. And we encourage artists will hit me up and say like, hey, can we do an Audiomack exclusive? And I'll say, that's entirely up to you. I won't stop you or dissuade you from it, but I do believe it is in your best interest to make your music available everywhere people are consuming their music. But the advantage, of course, is that if you do it with us, there's the opportunity to generate revenue.
Yeah, gotcha. What can you talk about which artists and labels you have or you're currently working with, or a particular artist or label that you've made a massive difference for, maybe, how they effectively monetize their music?
I think that we've made practically every label that has invested in African music, Caribbean music, so dancehall, soca, reggae, every label that has spent money to invest in hip hop, in particular drill and Southern hip hop, we've helped them all tremendously. I feel like Audiomack historically has only been a line or two in like the 4th or 5th chapter of some of these stories. We have not historically had our name in all bold uppercase lettering on the face of the book. And that's often because we play such an instrumental role at the very earliest stage of a career. In some cases, allowing that artist to gain the sort of profile that would even allow them to generate the type of leverage that they would need to attract a label or a distributor to be offered a deal. And then ultimately what ends up happening is, well, we hope that they would stick with us and show their loyalty throughout their career. Invariably, they get new management, they work with a new product manager, and you're an artist manager yourself, you understand this. They stop communicating with us directly, they work through proxies, and that relationship is never the same. I'll give you an example though. There's an artist named Olive the Boy, and he started uploading his music early last year to Audiomack and had a smash record called Good Thing. And he did over 75 million streams on Audiomack. And thanks to the success of that record, he was signed to a deal by Boo Vision, which is a label that was founded by Akon Breyer in a joint venture with Columbia in the Sony system. And had that series of events not played out, none of that likely would have. Now, incredibly talented artist, so eventually something probably would have popped for him, but our role in that story is undeniable.
Yeah. What can you just spell out the artist's name in case someone wants to look it up?
Yeah, Olive, Olive, the P-H-E, boy, B-O-I, Olive the Boy.
Olive the Boy. Nice. Yeah, I'll go check that out. I mean, 75 million streams. That is nuts. What are some, what are you finding, if you're working with all these artists, what are some numbers that, like, when you see the tracks hitting those numbers, they're starting to get serious interest, from either other labels or management or something, where you really see the needle move?
It's not just about plays either, Nick. What I think we have put a lot of stock in, as far as the way that we display data and metrics, is engagement. We're one of the few streaming services that allows users to leave comments under songs and albums. And then there's a plethora of engagement metrics that are highlighted at the top of each page, which are likes, favorite, re-ups, which is basically like a repost on a social media platform where it adds that song or album to your feed if someone follows you. And all of these metrics suggest far greater resonance with the music than just plays. Plays can ebb and flow and spike based on editorial playlist ad and virality, whereas engagement suggests stickiness, right? You were so moved either by the artist or the particular product that you perform these actions that do require additional work and or took the time to leave a comment. But to answer your question, it varies based on the genre and the market, right? I think everybody sees the writing on the wall. Africa has incredible potential, especially coming off of where we've seen a huge boom in respect to Latin music consumption over the past 5 years. I mean, not long ago, we were at a point where you would never find a song that was entirely in Spanish being played on top 40 radio in the US next to a Taylor Swift or a Drake record, but we're there, right? And so what we've seen with respect to Latin, I hope we see with respect to Afrobeats and other African genres here in the near future.
Yeah, I don't doubt it at all. Right, I'm going to switch things up a little bit. So I'm going to present a situation and I'm going to ask you a question about it. So, and this is a bit more of as an experience of you as an industry expert. So you've got a budget of $3,000 to promote a self-releasing artist on their own label. They've got about 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify as a gauge kind of their popularity. They've got a combined social media audience of 25,000 across their Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. The catch is they're a non-performing artist, so they just make really good, catchy, like instrumental kind of dance music and maybe Afrobeat music. There's not a face or anything when anyone's singing. How would you go about spending your budget to grow their fans and monetize their music in 2024?
So you said the budget's $3,000?
Yep. So small budgets, you're looking at an independent, just sort of getting, around 10,000, they want to go to the next level.
Got it. And is this strictly a marketing budget, or do they need to allocate these funds to actually create the music?
No, music's been done, mastered, they've got the artwork, it's ready to go. And assume they can, if they want to, they can distribute through DistroKid or CD Baby if they want.
Sure. Okay. So low cost, self-upload, distro option. Don't need to reallocate or allocate any of the funds to actually make the product.
No.
So first things first, figure out a way, no or low cost, to get brand new publicity photos taken that match the tenor of the music, right? I think one of the biggest mistakes that we see is artists reuse or repurpose publicity photos from previous campaigns or years when that look, feel, color, dynamic does not accurately match the music. And what I think is lost on so many artists today is we listen with our eyes first before our ears. We're making judgments based on artwork and publicity photos, particular in a very small space while scrolling quickly through social media and DSPs. So you want to make sure that the imagery captures what you're providing musically. And so if you can't do that yourself, find a photographer. There are millions of them on social media, many of whom would do it for little to no money just to gain experience. You can even find a local university or college student who's majoring in photography, or even have someone who knows their way around an right? So that's a very small part of the budget. Next is artwork. We already touched on that. Again, people listen with their eyes first, then their ears. Someone might never even take a chance on your music if what they're seeing doesn't capture, even if they're familiar with you. Thanks to AI, there are a multitude of options that you can pursue that are no or low cost. If you want to employ a human, though, which is always going to be my recommendation, a small portion of your budget should be allocated for the art. So now you have your branding and your imagery, so your visual asset in hand. Great. Now you're set up for success, because when people see it, they're likelier to click through. A portion of that money should be allocated for a campaign that you will run that is hyper targeted based on the data that you should have available to you through all of your creator dashboards. So Audiomack creator app, Spotify for artists, see who is consuming your music based on location, age, demographic, gender. And then with this data in hand, you should have available to you, go ahead and run small sample campaigns on Instagram and on YouTube. Don't blow the rest of the budget on this. Run small campaigns that are hyper targeted to get a gauge on whether or not you are targeting the right audience. A portion of the budget, let's say a couple $100, can be allocated for short form video. What we've seen is it should not be overproduced. The best performing short form video content is super organic, super authentic, often shot by the artist with top text overlay. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. The idea is that while someone is scrolling, when they click through, the video feels like they are on their phone talking directly to you. Whereas if it feels overproduced, it's just less genuine, less authentic. So you've allocated part of your budget for publicity photos. You've allocated part of your budget for artwork and any other similar visual asset. A part is for an ad spend on at least 1 to 2 platforms, and then some short form video content. You should have money left over at this point because, again, nothing is super produced yet. At that point, the music should be out, and then you can do the same thing with the ad spend post-release. Nick, big mistake I see artists make all the time is they spend their entire marketing budget in the lead up to the release. And the problem with that is you're directing people to consume something that's not yet available. We're all so busy. There's so much on-demand content we're not going to remember. And so you can only spend so much as the lead up to. Once it's out in the marketplace, then it actually can be consumed at the point in time someone sees the ad or any sort of native organic post on your social media.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I feel you've still got about $1,500 left.
Right. And so post-release, you gauge how well your initial ad spend did, and then you could tweak it, or if it's working, continue to double down.
Yeah. So just, once what you're saying is once you've got a really low cost per click through or conversion on a Spotify stream or whatever, just use your rest of your money up on that. Brilliant. I have to say, I really like the idea about the getting you press picks as well. I don't think that is highlighted enough. And your other point as well about waiting until, I guess a week after the release comes out and then looking at your analytics and then running your ads makes so much more sense. Yeah, great answer. So you talked about AI, briefly around artwork. And there's going to be there's a whole thing around Suno and stuff, which I don't really get into because we could probably have a 3-hour discussion around that. But especially something that's relative to Audiomack that I speaking about Spotify, they have this new 1,000 streams payment threshold that's come out. Like, do you think this is in response to the amount of AI music being produced? And for you at Audiomack, are you seeing an upload of more AI produced music? And do you think this is going to be a good thing, a bad thing? Do you want it to be targeted? What is your guys' sort of 12-month plan around that?
It's very difficult to suss out at this preliminary stage what is AI enhanced versus entirely AI manufactured. So there's really no clear answer yet. We're still in the Genesis chapter of the story. As a music fan, above all else, I'm torn. I think that there are a lot of great use cases for it, in particular when an artist is in bad health or can no longer use their full voice or can no longer tour. The ability to do voice cloning can extend an artist's career for years or decades, that's an instance where I'm very pro AI. But I think most of the work that's going to be done that will be most beneficial is with respect to it aiding the creative process and not being the artist. Ultimately, music is about human connection. And I think that is entirely lost when a human knows that what they're listening to is not a human behind it. So I think when it comes to helping with writer's block, fantastic. I think as a source of inspiration, fantastic. I think there are plenty of opportunities for it to supplement the creative work and not replace it. As for, Spotify's program, they're looking to save money. Spotify as a platform historically, I believe, has only had one quarter where they've made money, that they have historically been in the red. And so this is a way to not bleed as much cash. I think our thresholds at Audiomack are much lower, but we're playing a different role than they are. And so we want early direct adoption, whereas you can't upload directly to Spotify. You have to work with a label or distributor. So it's sort of apples and oranges there.
Yeah, I hear you. I think the other thing about music and creating it is the action of going through and creating music as a human is why you do it. And if people are just clicking a button to pump out some music, it's a novelty and people go, okay, yeah. And it'll become a small subsection of the music industry, like AI music, and people will get into it and it'll be its own little kind of culture. But I don't think it's ever going to take over. I think what you said, it'll be aiding. I use it to help with lyrics, Yeah, I completely see where that's going to go. And like you said, when people get older or they're sick, I think that's a really great use case as well. So I'm listening to this. I'm an independent record label, and I'm like, how have I not heard about Audiomack before? What would you say to an indie label, maybe of 2 or 3 people looking to use the platform? What strategy would you suggest to them to use?
Well, if you haven't heard of us, that's totally cool. Never too late to jump on the bandwagon. We'll embrace you with open arms. I think, if you download the app and spend 5 minutes, what you'll instantly recognize is that unlike most other DSPs, we devote a fairly substantial amount of valuable real estate within the app to independent and emerging artists, more so than a lot of others. And so there is a far greater opportunity for discovery to happen in that capacity. Also, a lot of the most valuable real estate is still human curated, not algorithmically driven. And so we're able to sort of train our core user base, which is over 31 million monthly active users, to press play on the unknown, right? They understand that part of the reason why they love Audiomack is that they are going to lean forward and discover. And I love that about our service. Outside of the listener's library, the number one source of play streams is our search section, because you can play directly from search. And so that sort of indicates the type of user that we have. And so we've given many artists, their first playlist cover. And so while, Spotify or Apple Music might be the sexier name, you're going to probably find more success at the very beginning with us. And as far as genres that we specialize in, historically, Nick, we're known for pop, R&B, Afrobeats, Latin and Caribbean music. But over the last year plus, we've started to do heavy curation across country and gospel, which are 2 of our fastest growing genres, as well as pop, electronic, rock, folk, jazz. And simply put, there's just far less competition, at least so far, on Audiomack. So if you're an independent artist or label head and your roster is predominantly made up of artists who make some of those genres I just listed, there's a fantastic opportunity right now to grow with us as we prioritize these additional genres on the service.
So basically, if you are listening as part of your strategy on release day, which is probably upload the full track to Bandcamp and SoundCloud, add Audiomack to that list and just upload it, because there's an audience there, and you'd be stupid not to. Really, there's an audience there, right? Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. All right. I mean, I'm personally going to have to update our release checklist inside the marketing machine now and go, and don't forget to upload to Audiomack.
Wonderful. And if you need any help with anything, you know where to find me.
Yeah, cheers. What are some of the, because, you are working with some of the more developing artists, what are some rookie mistakes or common problems that you see over and over again that new or early career artists make?
One thing that I always like to discuss is metadata. It's very boring, not a sexy topic whatsoever. I mean, let's face it, like, no one likes doing data entry, even though people who it's their professional full-time job. But metadata, specifically as it pertains to the experience they will have on a streaming service, can make or break discoverability. Artists often put little to no thought behind the primary genre classification. For instance, two of the most lazy are alternative and world. Alternative is not a genre, it's a modifier. You could have an alternative rock song, an alternative pop song, an alternative pop song. But if it's only delivered with alternative, with no secondary, primary, or subgenre included in the metadata, the service really doesn't know what to do with, and requires a lot of manual intervention, more so than a lot of services would be willing to offer. World could
So
be,
just quickly, can you explain to the audience, if someone's like, metadata, what is this metadata he speaks of? Do you want to just give a quick rundown of what that is?
sure. So like an ID card for your song. It's a fingerprint for your song. It's the information that is added to the file. So artist name, songwriter info, title, ISRC, and UPC, which are identifying codes that'll allow you to get paid for your music. It's the credits that are attached to the work. It's how the music is displayed on platforms and services, and it helps stores and DS both ingest, map, and track the product, whether that means delivery or takedown, whether catalogs are migrated or removed. This information is paramount, again, for discovery purposes and payment purposes. And the two most common mistakes I see made are little to no thought put into genre classification. I gave the example of alternative with no secondary, primary, or subgenre. The other is not writing the artist's name aesthetically, so the formatting, the same way every time. So we'll see an artist deliver their music and they'll write their name in all lowercase lettering because it looks cool. That's fine. That means that every subsequent release, you should have the exact same format, your entire name written in lowercase lettering. What they'll do, though, is they'll forget that they did that or not commit to it. And the next release, the first letter of their stage name will be capitalized as per normal writing, and the rest will be in all lowercase. Not only is this confusing for the user, but is this the same artist? Is this a different artist? But certain platforms might think it's a different artist. There isn't an artist ID attached, or you've used a different distributor, and they'll actually create a duplicative profile, which means that you now have two profiles on the same service, each with a different version of your artist, because there isn't any consistency. So yeah, it seems minor, but can absolutely make or break success.
I'm all about metadata. Went to a sync conference once in LA and they just drilled it down on us. They were like, it's the harder, it can make or break in the sync industry if you don't have the right metadata, or they can't get hold of you.
For sure.
Yeah. And does your platform as well allow you to, I know some of these artists might not necessarily be uploading to the DSPs, but can you enter the metadata as well on your platform and put all that in there? Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So you can go as basic as possible you want as you're working through the user upload flow. It'll ask you for artist name, featured artist name, title. But if you want to get more granular, you absolutely can. And there's a drop down field, and you could enter in all the same information that distributor or label would require you to provide that to them if they were handling it on your behalf.
That's good to know. Now, because you gave such a brilliant answer to the question on how you would market with $3,000, the next thing as well that everybody wants to know is how what's the best way to grow my fan base? So what would you say the biggest challenges for artists and labels face when they want to grow their fan base, when they're an early career artist, and what would you advise?
The first thing I would do is I would find someone to help you as an artist with your social media. That is the first person I would look to bring into the fold within your orbit. I know I'm telling a music manager this, so let me explain. Most artists at the beginning of their career, they don't have any business to manage. And so there really isn't a place for a manager yet. But it is quite overwhelming as an artist to both be a creative and also manage, 5 to 10 platforms, content creation, engagement, constant presence. Even if you're not an artist, but you're on social media, you know that this can be draining. Even if you have a super filtered, hyper curated social experience, just being on social media is draining. And so by bringing in someone to help manage your social media, that frees up your mental space and your time to focus and dedicate more on your art and everything that surrounds your art, down to what we mentioned before, which is the direction of your publicity photos, your branding, and your artwork. So I think that is the first thing you want to do, is bring someone in to help on social media. It can even be a fan. I've suggested this before. If you regularly post on Instagram or X, and you see a core number of users who are constantly engaging you in a very positive manner, sidebar with them, slide into their DM, strike up a conversation, get to know them a little bit better, jump on a phone call or Zoom. A lot of artists would be surprised how many early adopter fans would love for the opportunity to play an instrumental role in the growth of their career. And, common pushback I hear there is like, well, you're going to trust this person with your social media. First of all, there are guardrails in place to give additional users more limited access to your account. One, but two, it's really no different than taking a chance on a hired digital marketing firm or publicity firm that you've never worked with before. They can screw up just the same way. And so, yeah, that's the first thing that I would do to really put you in the best position possible to succeed. This terms of like generating more interest and awareness, release music, in particular songs. I think we're at a stage now where waiting 6 to 12 months to release an album for an artist that has, the audience size that you referenced before is counterintuitive to the way that people are consuming music and fan bases are being built. And so rather than releasing, let's say, a 10 to 12 track album it's out and that's it, take those 10 to 12 songs and strategically release them with supplementary content over a period of 4 to 6 months. And that doesn't mean that when you create that plan, you have to stick to it. What I see a lot of artists do is they'll start releasing music, something will have legs, it'll start to take off, and they'll just continue to stick to their plan. No, if something begins to take off, and you can look at all of your dashboards to see the numbers, pause your plan. That music will always be available to release later, and throw gasoline on that fire, right? So something has movement, double down on activity on your socials. So that's both native content and paid for content. And the hope is that the paid ads will help generate more organic native interest in your music.
Yeah, that's a very smart insight about your first team member, because like you said, it doesn't necessarily even have to be an official hire. as being as
Yeah.
finding a social media manager. I'm hoping as well over the next year or so that AI is able to help it and supplement that. So going to somebody to say, hey, I can help you. I can help, if you're my artist, and say, I can help you do this stuff. And it's not actually going to be over. I'm just putting that hat on, but I'm not actually have to do loads of crazy content. I'll just organize that for you so you don't have to worry about it. But it's just one less thing for you to worry, and they can kind of put that together. It's definitely something we're looking at the Label Machine as well, and getting sort of that automation, because I think you're right. Without social media content, it's incredibly hard to grow your fan base. Even if your music is incredible. So what have we got? We've got a few minutes left. I guess the next thing is, what's the future for Audiomack? A minute. What's the 5 years? What can we expect to see, or is there any exciting sort of features you guys have got on the horizon you can share with us?
So I mentioned earlier in our conversation, Audiomack. We just rolled that out across Android. So it's now available for users on iOS and Android, and adoption has grown incredibly. So there's ways that we plan to iterate and improve that product. We have year over year continually added additional creator tools that are all available in the Audiomack Creator app. So within the Creator app, you can upload, you can apply for monetization, you can withdraw your funds, you can send connect messages to all of your followers, you can download promotional assets that are beautifully designed that allow you to amplify and evangelize your success on the service, right? And so additional creator tools will be added. One idea that we're playing around with now is the ability to send connect messages with voice notes, and someone can listen to your message as opposed to just read it, as well as add additional media attachment options. We've also seen across the industry, there is a need for a dependable and respected resource to help advise independent artists on what options are available to them in the distribution market landscape. You have a group of artists who use what I call broad spectrum distributors. So like your DistroKid, your TuneCores, your CD Babies, and that works for a large swath of artists, but they reach a point where they perhaps want to explore a larger distribution deal or a label services deal, and they don't know where to start because there are thousands of small independent and large independent distributors. And so we want to be the place where artists who are already working with us in some capacity, either uploading directly or within our community, where they come to us and they listen to us, they trust us for advice on, depending on where you are at in your career, what kind of music you make, where you are physically located, what markets you're attempting to break into, what might be the right fit for you at that place and time, and then helping them by making introductions. So a label services division is something that we are and have been working on developing to really help our artists community.
Yeah, that's a really smart move. And post call as well, the creator tools that you're talking about as well. I don't know if you've got like a video rundown or some PDFs or something we can have, but I can definitely put that into the back end of the Label Machine and have that, because it does sound, especially if you can start creating stuff and downloading it, that sounds amazing.
I will drown your inbox in PDFs and presentation. You will rue the day that you asked me for documentation and resource.
And I did it live. I can't even go back on it. It's down. Been recorded. Awesome. So, man, it's been super insightful having you on here. Where can people find you online if someone's listening, they want to connect with you or Audiomack? Where's the best place to go?
I really only have one public social media platform, and that is on Twitter/X. Just my name, Brian Zisook. I spend an inordinate amount of time providing industry insights and artist amplification, development recommendations. So feel free to follow me there. Of course, if you haven't downloaded Audiomack, the app is available on iOS and Android for free. And for those artists who are listening, if you have an account, you can also download our Creator app, which again is free. You use the exact same login credentials for your primary account to log in as you would the Creator app.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Z. That was awesome. Yeah, really enjoyed that. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Nick, for having me. I really appreciate the conversation.